here on the program. Before we go any further, I want to introduce you to a young filmmaker, a guy called Harry Freeland. Harry's made a really powerful documentary that you need to see. It's called In the Shadow of the Sun. It explores prejudice, persecution, and shocking barbarism inflicted on people with albinism. It's in Tanzania, East Africa. In some ways, it's uplifting, but it's also heart-shattering. Here's a clip from the film. 2 young girls with albinism living in a shelter for their own protection. Take a look.
Mimi hata swali la kuongea hadi nakosa kabisa. Nakosa. Kwa sababu inanitia uchungu sana mimi.
Mimi nyumbani nilikuwa sifichwi ndani. Kwani wananificha ndani sio binadamu?
Nilikuwa nacheza kama kawa.
Hadi mimi. Ukinificha hamna kabisa siwezi. Ila mimi huwa nahisi baba yangu aliwatuma waje wanichinje.
Inawezekana Sasa mtu hata haja kusalimia. Alafu na nyumbani hayupo.
Wewe ameshawatuma tu waje wanichinje.
Kwani anaenda machimboni?
Unamaliza siku 4 mtu amechinjwa, amekatwa huko afu ndio unakuja. Maana hiyo sio imeagiza tu. Mimi akija huko namdai hela zangu. Efunga 35.
This is one of many really compelling, and like I said off the top, just almost too much to handle clips in that film, but it's one you have to see. The man who made it is Harry Freeland. Harry, come on out, please. All right, man. Nice to see you. Welcome to the program. Thanks so much. Well, it's pretty close. So we got with our matching outfits here. Yeah. Well, so walk me through this story. I mean, I've seen the film. I love the film because it does have those moments, like even those 2 little kids just being kids. You can still see there's a spirit in there, but it's a heavy story. How did you get there?
Yeah, I mean, I first became aware of the subject in 2004. I was making a film in Senegal for the British Council about a completely different subject. And I was out filming on the street, and a mother approached me, crying in a kind of hysterical state, held out her 6-month-old baby to me and said, take it back to where it comes from, assuming that I was white-skinned, that it belonged to me. And this child had albinism. Of course, she knew the child had come from her, but she had been kicked out of her home by her husband and his family and accused of sleeping with a white man. And although I'd traveled and worked in kind of 17 African countries at the time, it never crossed my mind that having albinism could lead to such discrimination.
It's not just discrimination, it's what the discrimination led to, as you learned in Tanzania. Like, then it went to a completely different level. Absolutely. I mean, at the time when I started filming, I first traveled to Tanzania in 2006. And when I traveled there, I had no idea that over the next 6 years, 72 people with albinism were going to be murdered, and a further 34 people were going to be mutilated. And this really stemmed from kind of ritual witchcraft beliefs that were spreading that albino body parts could make you rich. And this led to the... They could cure disease, they could give you any kind of prosperity, and it's these doctors. But what I find interesting about that is, and then what we saw the girl talking about it, that her father would sell, you know, gave her up to be cut up so they could sell, because they need some of the money. But the people who are buying these parts and buying the potions are people with money. And so this seems to go all the way up to the top of the government, doesn't it? Yeah, well, this is what we think. I mean, it's been very difficult. I mean, witchcraft is done in such secrecy that it's been very difficult to find out who is, paying these large sums of money that albino body parts are selling for. What we know is there seems to be 3 people involved. There are the witch doctors who are possibly spreading these rumors. There are the poor Tanzanians who are the ones really being made to carry out the acts. There's a clip in the film from a fisherman. Let's play that. We have it. Let's take a look. You have that? Yeah, okay. We have that exact clip. Okay.
Wengine unaweza akakuta anaongea kwamba yani nikipata kiungo fulani cha jini inawezekana labda nikawa nafanikiwa sana katika uvuvi wangu. Si maskini ambao unasababisha vile, kwa sababu unaweza ukakuta mtu unaletewa hela. Na ukiletewa hela na mtu anahitaji kitu, muda mwingine yani kulingana na maisha ambayo ulionayo, inabidi ulinganishe maisha yako kwamba bwana, sasa mimi maisha ambayo nilionayo haya, nikifanya kitendo sinaweza nikafaulu katika maisha yangu, na mimi nikiwa nikawa na maisha bora kama wengine. Kama mtajiri anaweza akaja tajiri yote akafika akaniambia, bwana, nataka unitafutie kiungo chochote cha albino, naweza nikaoa kwa sababu ya hali yangu ambayo ninayo ya kimaisha. Naweza nikaoa ili mradi mimi maisha yangu yawe bora zaidi.
I mean, there it is, man. There's the quote.
Yeah. I mean, for me, you know, this is a poor man struggling to survive, whose kids are maybe dying of illness and he can't afford to put money on the table. So although, I mean, you can't, you know, you condemn all murder of this kind, you kind of understand when he's being offered money by these rich people that if you were really desperate to survive, you may lead to do something like this. Right. So what we really want to find out is where this is being fueled and who's paying for it. And the murders do seem to escalate whenever there is an election or miners have been caught with putting albino body parts in their mines so they'll get more gold. Fishermen, such as this guy, have been caught putting albino hair, tying it into their fishing nets in the belief that it will make fish rise to the surface.
I know for a lot of documentaries, especially complicated ones like this, how do you make sure that the people who have been in your film are safe? Or there are people who are worried about what happens after to them?
Yeah. I mean, Josephat would get death threats daily while I was making the film. And people often ask me, was it safe while you were making it? I mean, did you feel safe yourself? But I think when you see the strength of the two characters, it was a very easy film for me to make. And I mean, I think that was one of the reasons why I shot it over such a long period of time, to make sure people would be safe. You know, there's certain times when we couldn't release certain bits of footage about Josephat. Would have been much more dangerous for him, certainly before he was known about by the government and had that kind of protection that he needs. And certainly before Vedastas got into a school. So yeah, that's very important to me, I think.
Do you see this part of your life as this run that it's like, okay, now there's another story I want to tell? Because you set out to tell a different story. Do you have another story you want to tell?
I've started another film about 2 years ago. It's a much more light-hearted film, actually. It's about a king in northwest Cameroon. Well, he was a 38-year-old prince living in Cleveland with his wife and 2 kids. And his father, the king of this community in northwest Cameroon, dies, and the prince is called back for his father's funeral. So it's a light-hearted film, I think.
Congratulations, man. Yeah. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. You got to see the film. It's called In the Shadow of the Sun. Look for it. And the charity is Standing Voice, which is standingvoice.org. Harry Freeland. We'll be right back.